Wheeling Plant Commission meeting for Thursday, May 15th is called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Commissioner Dorban.
I'm here.
Commissioner Johnson, I am here. Commissioner Powers.
Here.
Commissioner Scheff.
I'm here.
Commissioner Stylen.
I'm here too.
Commissioner Zangara.
I'm here.
And Chairman Rufato.
Here. Mr. Jennings, any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes this evening.
Citizens' concerns and comments? None. Consent items? None. Items for review. Docket number PC 14-9, Salata, 1083 Lake Cook Road, minor site plan and appearance approval for modifications to the exterior of the restaurant. Mr. Jennings?
Thank you. Before I call the petitioner up, just a quick overview of what is being requested. This essentially consists of two elements. There was a outdoor dining area that was approved with the original special use for this business. That area on the south side of the building is partially landscaped. The petitioner's request is to take the landscape area on the east side of the building that you see pictured here and shift it east into where the sod area is currently located and connect the two doors of this business with concrete and then allow seating in this area. So that is one item. The petitioner is also requesting, and I'll let the petitioner present that, but the petitioner's request also includes appearance modifications. In a review of the code and discussion with the petitioner, the presentation that you see in front of you, the graphics that you have in front of you, would be modified slightly in real life. The image that you see here is a mostly opaque lettuce leaf graphic. What, based on the code, would need to happen if this were to be approved for the appearance, this opaque graphic would be applied if approved, but the sign area of this window would have to be reduced to meet the window sign maximum. So I've discussed this with the petitioner, he understands that, but exactly what you see here, the signage would not be a part of what you're approving. The leaf theme would just take up the additional space to block out the areas that need to be blocked out. And then the signage on those windows would be reduced to meet the sign code. So with that, I would like to open it up to the petitioner.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Could you give your name and business address?
Dan Campbell, 1083 Lake Cook Road, Wheeling.
Okay. Just, do you have anything else to
Yeah, I think
present?
Ideally this would have happened, but I was involved in the landlord's landscaping plans. But the initial spot for the patio has been landscaped and the handicapped ramp has been moved. So there's really no opportunity to put a table there. This area is the kind of obvious place to put a patio. And also my proposal also adds a proper walkway from our east exit to the south parking lot, which is the front of the building. And the east doorway is our natural exit for the flow of the restaurant. It's not a buffet, but it's similar to things like a Chipotle or Subway, where there's a definite start point and an end point, and the end point is right around the east door. So I envision a lot of people exiting out the east door. So the walkway, I think, would be very beneficial to get to the south parking lot. And I think the landscape proposal is using the existing. It's been planted and it's fine if we do it relatively soon. Before the real heat of the summer, everything can be reused, and we'd be adding plant material as well to fill in the spots. The grass area that's leaving is a fairly small portion of grass that's fairly difficult to maintain. It's about, two mowers worth of grass. So in my opinion, I don't think you're losing a lot from getting rid of grass and then adding more perennials. And considerations for the growth of the ornamental trees have been made. The trees have actually been switched so that there's room for them to grow in their proper spot and not encroach upon the walkway or the driveway.
Great. Anything else?
I think that's it.
I will start tonight with Commissioner Schaaf.
Thank you. The entrance to your establishment will be on the south side?
Correct.
Is that correct?
It is.
Okay, so the normal flow is south through the restaurant and et cetera, and then out the east?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, sorry.
Now, this walkway that I see here, what prevents, as I look at the drawing, I think staff pointed out that we might want to look at, those tables are right up against the landscaping.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is to prevent falling off that sidewalk? Is there going to be some type of a ledge or something that'll...
I'm open to suggestion, but the plan is a natural barrier and the landscaping's to grade, and you'd have to fall sideways out of your chair. So you're pulling a chair out, this is the edge, you'd have to pull it over to the side to go on the edge of the concrete, and if you fell off the concrete, you're talking less than, 2 inches. I would see more of a...
When the table is moved 2 inches, it tends to tip over. So if some type of a ledge were provided, I think that would stop any sliding or anything like that.
I feel like it's against the natural movement of the chairs. I mean, if you put a small ledge there, then somebody could trip over it. I mean, there's a lot of what ifs, but I rarely see anybody fall out of a chair sideways or have a table move sideways. But if we need to put a railing, we'll put a railing. But
a railing would some type of a decorative, maybe a wrought iron railing, something that wouldn't be too obtrusive. But I would think that there would be just a little bit of concern with those tables and chairs, especially if they're right on the edge of your patio there. If they were 6-8 inches away, and then I wouldn't see any problem. But if you're going to go right up against it,
well, they could be anywhere we want on there. I mean, it's a 6-foot span, and our tables are 2 feet wide. So you got 4 feet. You have 12 inches to move them over. Or if we found it's a problem, we could put it up against the building. I'd rather not, because there's a counter seating at the window, and that looks out, so you'd be essentially looking right down on somebody's
right.
table.
I got a question for staff. Isn't there a requirement between outside seating and that sidewalk area? Is there a requirement in there?
If it were considered to be the required access, for example, if it is the handicap access to the building, then there would be a clearance requirement. In this case, this area is being created out of the landscape area. The handicap access is already met. So I don't believe there is an additional requirement for the clearance there.
But 4 foot is a little narrow. Usually, isn't it, the width of a normal sidewalk is
36.
Residential area is 5.
But a walkway, I thought, for handicap access, 36 inches. And so we're at 4 feet, which is...
Yeah, and I'm not sure of those restrictions, which is why I asked the question to staff.
Yeah, we can double check, but I believe in this case, because the access is already provided to the north and to the south, that the connection itself is not serving as the access. It happens to be connected, but I don't think it applies. We can double check though.
Okay. I really don't have a problem with moving that from the south side to the east side. You know, I applaud the effort, you know, for outside seating. I think you could use it, you know, during the pleasant weather, such that we have.
2 weeks.
Couple months, yeah.
At times. This bike rack is that being moved?
That is the bike rack that was added during the approval process. I don't believe it's being moved. I think it's shown on the plan as.
From the edge of the landscaping to the building where the dirt is on the bike rack concrete is 3 feet. So you're looking at well over 5 feet of clearance between the building and the bike rack. So essentially, when you're looking at that picture, to the left of the bar of the bike rack is where the line of the tables and chairs would be, and the walkway would be on the left of that.
Okay, so that being out of the way, the other note that staff left us was the plan for the windows on the east side.
Yes. So I understand the code. These are renderings. So what we would do is put our opaque salad, what are we going to call it, graphic, which I have a picture on my phone. I didn't think to include it, of a close-up if anyone's interested to see it. So we would essentially keep the bottom across the window and create a frame with that. And the sign would be 20 square feet, which is half of the square feet of the window. They're 4 by 10 there. And so you would create basically a picture frame with the opaque detail. And, you know, it's a good place for advertising, but it's also a good place to block the view into the so there's a hallway beyond those windows, and then there's doors into the restroom. So as the plans show right now, it would just be drywall over them. Before we had this idea of putting the signs there.
Okay.
So
Does that meet our requirement of not more than 25% of the window being covered?
It does because of the additional windows on each frontage, yes.
Okay. Okay, as long as Mr. Campbell is aware of all of our regs, I have no problem. Thank you very much.
Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So on the 2 panes of glass by the drive-through area, are those signs just going to be reduced?
yeah,
And are we putting the opaque across those 2 panes also?
There's more than one way to do it. You could take the signs and cut them in half. You could reduce them by 50%. So there's a couple of different ways to do it to meet the code. The idea of it would be that this frosted salad leaf design would be applied, and then within the limitations of the sign code, they would add the graphic portion of the sign on top of a smaller portion of the window.
Okay. I want to ask about the serviceberry and crabapple trees. Where are they currently now on the site as they're planted? Are they on the south side of the building?
no, they're on the east side, basically where the patio is, or where the patio line is. So they're being dug up, switched, and moved forward towards the road. But the landscaper who installed this wrote a letter saying that there's plenty of room for these type of ornamentals to grow naturally where she's going to put them.
So they're still staying in that same area, is that right? Except
Yeah.
they're just going to be moved away from the building?
Yes, and swapped, because there's a little on the top side of that diagram. There's more room, and the crabapple is a little bigger ornamental, so she put it up there.
Yeah, I think I would want to see some kind of railing too, from that, in that landscape area on the, I guess it's on the west side between the wall and have the tables against that railing area. That way, hopefully there's no way that somebody could fall in. If a table's moved or slips and goes over on the side, it wouldn't happen. I would think I'd want to see a railing there. Let's see. Since, I guess this new landscape layout, does that now become like the new site plan? Because the old site plan has the old landscape layout. Are we adding this to the site plan for both Starbucks and Salata and putting this in as like an amendment to the site plan? So they don't have to redo it?
Essentially, yes, we would not, with the minor review, we track by address, by location, et cetera, but we would not take this to the board and formally amend the ordinance. That would be part of our legislative history on it.
Okay. I think that's it for now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Stalin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just kind of a curiosity question. I mean, we have the old original patio area and this new, I would think it's probably a smaller, more constrained area, but it's closer to your building. It's a little bit more hidden. It's probably a lot less prone to wind damage or blowing around and stuff like that. Do you really prefer this new option over the old option?
I do, because the tables would be in front of the entrance and blocking our graphics and the look of the front of from the old plan, the look of the front of our restaurant. So I think it's nice. It goes better with the flow of the restaurant. And then, there's Starbucks has a patio, but they have an exclusive, and so there's not very likely that somebody would want to walk the length of the building to the other side of the patio as well. So we really feel that some sort of outside dining is needed here.
So how much of the landscaping that was to the north side of the door that's on the east side is going to remain where your
That's untouched.
where the reader board is, so that's going to remain as it was on the original plan.
Correct, yeah.
The Starbucks has a little square on the southwest corner of their property. We could give you a little bit more patio area if you kind of matched their side and just went to a more square area rather than a rectangular area. Do you think your patio is going to be big enough for your needs? I mean, it does seem to be a little on the narrow side.
So we're working under the impression that we can only put 8 tables out there, 8 chairs out there. I, of course, would like more, but, we're trying to use the landscaping, make sure that everybody's happy with the landscaping, and kind of at least get a patio. So I'm open to suggestion, really. I mean, it's a blank slate for us.
You get 8 seats for free, Andrew, is that?
I believe the number is 15.
Oh, so he could go up to 15 seats if he had the room.
Without impacting the parking requirement.
And nor a variation or,
I believe the first 15. Double check that. I have the code handy.
so I mean, it just seems a little constrained to me, and if we could give you a little bit bigger space, and if you'd like more tables, I'd be amenable to to discussing that. The only thing I do agree that I think we need a railing between the table area and whatever landscaping is going to be, or, you know, a wall that's probably table height.
So Andrew, could you point out where, I'm a bit confused, Commissioner Steinle, as to where the increase in doubling, where would it be? I don't quite see it.
I believe, and you can,
What, I mean, I was thinking about taking this landscaping and just constraining it down to a small square, like, which would give them,
a little bit difficult to see, but
Same area, but reducing the landscape on the one side and adding it to the other.
well, no, not really, just taking, you know, this area that's like Starbucks over here.
Yeah.
Tim, and carving out that same little square area, which would give him a much larger area for his
Oh, I see.
tables, whatever,
Okay.
you know. Whatever Starbucks has, you know, I think it would be a reasonable balance and still allow him to have a little bit more space. And he was going to have that old patio area that was pretty much out there anyway, so
so the suggestion is this area be
open it up, yeah.
opened up and paved as well, and cut the landscaping down to basically below this line.
Right.
Which, can you say, I'm fine with, that's great for us. I mean,
The only issue with that is what you have buried in there. You know, the plan commission can approve that conditionally, if that's the consensus of the commission. You do have some, the control valve for the landscape irrigation is in that location, so.
Yeah, the control valve actually it's very close to the curb.
Right there.
And if it stays in the landscape, they just leave it, and whether it's grass or dirt is fine. There's only a couple irrigation heads that can be moved very easily that don't control the landscaping. So an easy fix would be to just add 2 feet, and then that would give us, or actually 3 feet, and that would give us 4 tops, which is, you know, would maintain the same walkway, and you'd have 4 feet worth of table instead of 4 feet instead of 2 feet worth of table. So that gives you, or gives me a lot more seating. It'd be great.
So, I mean, I just think it could be doable, and it actually might look a little bit better, because that just seems a little tight to me. But, you know, I'll leave it to the other commissioners and you to decide if that's something that you might want to take a look at and see if it's possible. But like I said, I think a railing or something to separate whatever the patio area is from the landscaping area would probably be appropriate. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Well, that opens up a whole different idea here, but I would go along with something like that, opening that area up. My only concern before was, again, the need for a railing, or I was thinking more of a short stone wall. Not so much for the tables tipping over, it's when somebody just slides their chair a little bit and one leg goes off into the soft landscaping and you get a visit from a lawyer. You know? Would we have to see a new plan if they want to do something like you're suggesting, Terry?
Well, we'd probably have to document it somehow, but, you know, Andrew, I mean, if the petitioner thought that it was something that he'd like to do, we could probably just get a quick and easy dirty sketch made,
And
right?
if we can document it so that it's extremely clear to everyone what we're talking about. If, for example, we're talking about the area from about the control valve north being paved and retaining the southern corner here.
Is the control valve shown on
It's
any?
the black dot here.
If you,
Okay, so that's, I was thinking a line at the window area might be a good place to cut it across, and maybe you could come up and,
And then the pave to the back of this curb then?
yeah.
As long as there's an understanding, I think that we can adjust that. If it's not 100% clear to everyone, though, I'd prefer to have a second plan provided.
so move your cursor as to where,
Commissioner Stilen is suggesting take the window frame, extend it over, draw the line, and then everything north of that frame could be paved.
So your control valve becomes in the concrete then?
It'd
No,
be shifted. It'd have to be
Yeah,
shifted,
which we'd
so.
have to
move.
You have to move
get
it?
get it moved, but I'm sure it's possible. I mean, it's,
Does everybody
So-
understand that?
No.
So the suggestion that Commissioner Stilen is making is that, as a frame of reference, that this window here be the reference point, so that you'd extend the line here, retain the landscape plan as drawn,
Down.
Down.
Right, down.
and then everything north of it. So this area would be
Concrete.
concrete.
But he still wants a walkway, so it wouldn't be exactly like the Starbucks side.
Well, Starbucks does have a little walkway that could exactly match his.
Yeah, they've got the same bike rack and,
Yeah.
so if we just said, I mean, the railing for the Starbucks, I'd assume would be good, and it would match on each side of the building if we just say to match the railing to Starbucks and,
just,
And
yeah, it'd be
goes in
like, be like a mirror image almost of what they have on that side.
Would that give you enough space to play with tables and stuff, do you think?
definitely,
Okay.
yeah, and I would, yeah, it'd be great. That'd be greatly appreciated.
That's all I had, thanks.
Commissioner Zangaro?
As long as that works also with the, I guess, the landscaping counts that you have to abide by too, whatever the minimum of that is. My question I have is, I guess if you're looking at that plan right there, and it goes back to the windows, the opaque. The one landscaping plan, I know, at first you had tables over there. Well, this one landscaping plan shows almost like a 3-foot landscaping bed there. Is there a bed there now, or is it just all concrete?
There is, okay, so, can you go to the picture where it shows the Salata up front? Okay, so there is a flower bed that runs, I believe, from the left to the right, at least three windows across my building, and goes over to Starbucks as well.
Okay.
So it's kind of centered on the building, on the ground. And then also, I'd estimate there's like 2.5, 3 feet between the edge of the flower bed and where the handicap ramp starts to go, to get into the front door. So if any tables could go there, you could really only put one out there just to the left of the door there. So that's the space there. And instead of just filling that in with concrete, then you're also would have to change something with the Starbucks bed, because it brings the two spaces together as well.
Right. Well, my point getting at is it just a flower bed? Because if there's landscaping there, then you're defeating the opaque purpose if it's going to block all your opaque.
Oh, yeah, it is a flower bed, sorry.
Okay. The second question I had was, in the outdoor area, the trash you have out there, is that a movable trash container? Because it looks like the same one that's inside. Is that something that wheels out? You wheel it out, wheel it in?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And typically at the restaurant that I've worked at in Houston, every night they bring in the outside furniture and every morning they bring it out, so.
Okay, besides that, I mean, any other suggestions? You know, I agree with most of them. I think if you open up the patio, the way they were talking about, then you don't have to worry about this falling chairs falling
Yeah.
off or anything like that too. So there's advantages, and I think then it, you know, if you have 4 or 8 people, they could put tables together and you could do that
Definitely.
also. So those were my concerns. I was, you know, with the landscape, I was just making sure it was flower beds. I figured if you're going to put that opaque up and they're going to put bushes and stuff to cover it, there's no reason to
Right.
really do that. But that's all I have.
How high are those flower beds?
Right now, they're about that. I'm not sure exactly what's in them, but they're not gonna, I don't think they'd be more than a foot.
It's just cut out of the concrete? It's-
Right.
Okay, it's
It's just
not
flowers,
a,
it's
it's not a
not
raised
grasses
bed.
or anything like that, just pure. Okay.
Commissioner Dorban?
Thank you. Most of my questions have been answered. However, I looked thoroughly through your landscape plan, and I think this is really interesting because there's a lot of interesting different things that I haven't seen before. So I was I'll be excited to see them grow. I mean, like I didn't know what prairie drop seed was, and the yarrow that's there that they've planted is orange colored, which, I mean, I just think it's an interesting mix of colors. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I have nothing. I mean, I think it's the signage is fine, what you want to do there, as long as it's in code, and it's an interesting opaque that's going to be added to there. And a couple of things, though, a couple of things that are on the table still. I think general consensus is that they should add a railing to the area. I'll take a poll that a railing should be added to the seating area. Commissioner Schaaf?
I believe it should.
Yes. Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Stylen?
Yeah, I think it balanced with Starbucks.
Right. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara?
I agree.
And Commissioner Dorban?
Yes, I think it'll be a good balance for Starbucks as well.
I agree too. Now, expanding the seating area, are we clear? I want to make sure, Andrew, if you could, again, put your mouse and cursor up there. So going across and then going up, that is going to be concrete for more seating, correct? And we're going to add a railing. So we're actually decreasing the landscaping,
That's correct.
okay?
And we are allowing a sidewalk
Right,
walkway, if you
yes,
want to call it,
yes, we are.
To try and balance,
similar to
Similar to
Starbucks.
Starbucks. So, Commissioner Dorban, are you in agreement with that?
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
yes.
Commissioner Stylen?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Yes.
Okay, with that said, are we comfortable with making adjustments to this drawing and let him go on his merry way, or would you like to see a new drawing come before us with the changes?
I would like to see a new drawing because now we've included a railing, we've cut down the landscaping, and we're actually adding more tables too. So there's like 3 different things there, and for me, I'd like to see a new drawing.
Commissioner Schaaf? Commissioner Schaaf?
I agree.
Commissioner Stylen?
I would like to see a new drawing, but I mean, it can be as simple as this one that we have on our screen
Okay.
to the right side. It doesn't have to be elaborate with all the landscaping
Okay.
lines. That's,
Commissioner Johnson?
I think it would be best to see something, yes.
Commissioner Zangara?
I would agree.
Commissioner Dorban?
I'd like to see a new drawing, but is this going to hold him up a long time? That's my only concern.
Andrew, do we have a meeting next week, don't we?
We do have a meeting next week. Given the scope of what's being suggested, do you believe that you could have something prepared by maybe Wednesday of next week?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah.
We'll give them that leverage. I mean, normally we have our packets by
Tomorrow.
by tomorrow. Are we okay with giving him the leeway to have something to us by Wednesday? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So if you have something to us, something to Andrew by Wednesday morning, he can get it to us, and then we just hold this, table it.
Table?
So do we have a motion to table?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great.
May I ask you a question? I know you talked about not being open on Sunday. Are you still holding to that? I mean, I noticed there's a tremendous amount of traffic at Starbucks on Sunday. I just would hope that you'd reconsider that.
yeah, it's definitely will be considered, and it's not that we don't want to be open on Sunday, it's part of the ramp up, and the restaurant isn't similar to a lot of restaurants where you don't need any, you need very little high-skilled people to supervise it. We're cooking all of our own food. So to ramp up to a 7-day schedule, you basically need 2.5 supervisors. So it's something that you have to build the team before you do that, or you just have everybody work 7 days a week, in order to get it done right. So, yeah, to give you an example, their training restaurant, they started at 6 days for 8 months, and on the 9th month, they're open Sundays. So likely we'll be doing that as well.
Okay, thank you.
And could you maybe submit a picture of that opaque graphic
Sure.
thing for us, just to complement our documentation?
Great. We'll see you next Thursday.
Okay, and on the, do we talk about the signs, or
They're
just get it all done next Thursday, or?
The signage, as the signs are reduced, they're considered exempt from the review. I think just if you would like to show the leaf graphic revised and show just to illustrate what it looked like, you're certainly welcome to do that.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Approval of minutes? None. That's good. Other business, staff presentation, discussion of stormwater detention and compensatory storage. Mr. Jennings.
The Plan Commission requested a couple of months ago some additional information relative to regional stormwater detention. There were a couple of notes in the staff report for Northgate Crossings, which ultimately was not reviewed at that time. However, the commission requested some additional background information to prepare for upcoming reviews of that project as well as other projects that may have a consideration of stormwater detention. And Mr. Janik is here to go over that and answer your questions.
Mr. Janik? Thank you.
No problem. Just whatever questions you might have, I'm not really prepared, or I've not prepared a overview, but my understanding from Andrew is that you're interested in more information about the existing compensatory storage and detention that the village has, and they possibly from time to time would dispense to various developments. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What you have in front of you is a slide that shows properties that we have marked out as potential properties for receipt of credits that we have at Heritage Park. when MWRD proposed,
Okay, first question,
okay,
you mentioned credits. What does that mean? What does that mean, just swapping out because of this property, you get a credit somewhere else?
no, I'll tell you.
Okay, good.
When MWRD proposed to regrade and redevelop Heritage Park, their proposal included substantial acre feet of water storage. As part of the negotiation for Heritage Park, the village received a certain amount of water storage in the form of credits, okay? What the credit is acre feet of storage located in the park. The village has the ability to provide those acre feet, those credits, to developers or to properties, let's put it that way, to properties that need or that request those credits. The reason those credits are important is because some properties, the properties that you see there on the slide have floodplain on them. In order to put development on those properties, the filling of the property is required. When you fill a property that has floodplain, you are required by our code to provide a certain amount of stormwater management in the form of either detention or compensatory storage. When you fill in the floodplain, you are required to provide compensatory storage to compensate for the storage that the floodplain you filled contained, okay? Our code requires 1.5 times the amount that you fill. So if you fill an acre foot on your property, you provide 1.5 acre feet somewhere on your property. The reason why that's important is because the properties that you see on this slide, some of them are not very deep, and they're very hard to develop without locating storage somewhere else. And that's depending on what you want to develop them as. For instance, the property that's colored orange, if somebody wanted to put 2 single-family houses on that property, they could contain all of their compensatory storage on that site, no problem. If you want to put a condominium development there, commercial and condominium, parking, that sort of thing, you're going to need to fill that property, get it above the floodplain, and by the time you do that, you probably won't have the room to store all of that water. So you come to the village, and if it's a development the village sees value in, they negotiate for providing credits to that property or to that development. As an example, the green on that slide is Northgate Crossings, which you guys have seen before, and it's coming before you next week. They are requesting some credits for their property. We've told them that they need to provide, or they need to locate most of their compensatory storage on their property. They're asking us for, I can't technically tell you how many because they haven't actually technically asked for the specific amount, but I believe it's going to be in the range of 2 to 2.5 acre feet of credit. You understand? All those properties, any property we provide credits to, have to be hydraulically connected to Heritage Park through the Buffalo Creek. All the water that flows and that is allowed to be credited needs to flow into Buffalo Creek. Buffalo Creek, as you know or don't know, flows through Heritage Park, and the way that's designed is that once the creek gets to a certain height, it overflows into the new basins in Heritage Park. Thereby, it's being stored, slowly drains off, farther south, goes into the diversionary channel near the airport, ultimately goes to Des Plaines River. That's how it works.
So credit, when they're asking for whatever, 2.5 credits, it's not it's what they're saying, what that means is that they don't have to use all of their property for storage,
That's correct.
but it still has to go somewhere.
That's correct.
And that in this case, in the green section, using Buffalo Creek to get to eventually what we've built over here.
That's right.
Okay.
Exactly right. There's not a variation in terms of how much they have to provide, it's just where it's being provided.
Okay. Normally, in that case, if there are no credits, it would have to be all on that green
That's
area.
correct. That's
Okay,
correct.
Got it. Okay. Cool. All right.
I have a question.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Ask away, you know.
Mark, I guess my concern was that whatever the storage amount that we have to give away as credits, I'll just call it 100%, okay, just for a number, that it gets divvied out to these potential land areas on equitable size kind of area, and that one person, and let's just take Northgate Crossings, couldn't say, well, there's 100% available, I want to use all the 100%, and that'll leave nothing for anybody else. So I would like to have some assurance, like you've laid out numbers here, 10, that seem to, are those, is that acreage?
That's just acreage. That's not how much they would need. That's just strict acreage of a parcel.
But it's a number, and the properties seem to be very close. Northgate seems to be double what any other individual, you know, so I'd like to see, as a rule of thumb, that same kind of treatment to allow all the property owners to share. Now, I can't say that this light yellow, orangish area, maybe their land is configured somewhat so they really don't need much, whereas maybe the dark purple guy is so low and deep or whatever that he has to need more. Even though the size of the property is the same, his property configuration, he just needs more. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
So, but I would like to see some kind of formula before the property gets developed, such that we don't say first come, first serve, and somebody grabs it all so that the last guy doesn't have any credits left. You know what I mean?
Well, Commissioner Steinle, I think that's what you have professional staff to do. We're the first ones they have to go through. Let's just take the green. They have a substantial amount of floodplain on that property. They could ask for, I think, up to 8 or 10 acre feet. You know, staff said, no. We have a lot of other properties, and that property is a larger property. You can store it on your property. We know you can. I mean, when you say the formula, there is no formula, and there really cannot be a formula because each of these properties is different. Each has more or less floodplain, different configuration. There is going to be no formula. What the formula is the village board ultimately has to provide these credits to the developer. It's not the staff. It's part of an RDA, always.
RDA is?
A redevelopment agreement, or development agreement. Whichever one it might be, but that's an agreement between the village board, but the village and a owner of a property, developer or owner, to do certain things. Northgate Crossing has to have a redevelopment agreement, or I should say development agreement because it's not being redeveloped, but a development agreement. Fresh Farms had a development agreement. Any of these properties that want something from the village, particularly monetarily, these are in the TIF area as well. So they might be asking for other assistance through TIF, but they need to have an agreement, and the village board, looks to us to give them an idea of what's rational. You can see that green parcel is probably the size of 2.5 of those other ones. I believe they're probably going to get in the range of 2.5 acres. Well, we have approximately 26 acre feet credits in heritage for compensatory storage only. So in effect, they're getting 10%. That property is almost half of the total. So just for your concern, in this particular case, we're making sure we're not giving away more at all. Just because they're a large property, we're not giving them a lot. You know, we want to save it as much as possible. We want to keep that for the community for whatever in the future somebody needs it. You know, just because those properties are on this slide, it does not mean that staff is going to, you know, would provide all of it just to those properties at all.
So,
Right, but I would, when a petitioner does come before us, all I'm asking is that we be made aware of how much, be it percentage of what we have, some credit number, whatever that they're asking for.
so to that point, when is that, Mark, when is that decided how many acre feet they get? Because I would assume that depending upon the amount of acre feet they get, would make a decision as to how many buildings,
Sure.
density and things like that. So is that decided up front as they're planning?
No, in this case, Commissioner Stylen, your question about, we can let you know how much acre feet are left, let's say the village has, but like in this particular case with Northgate Crossing, they have not come to an agreement on a redevelopment agreement, or a development agreement, I'm sorry. So I don't, like, I can't tell you right now exactly how much they're going to get, because I don't know. The agreement has not been negotiated. So sometimes you're going to be seeing properties, and we're not going to know exactly. It depends on the developer when they negotiate their development agreement. It behooves them to do it earlier than later, so they know exactly what they're going to get. But it's not up to us when they do that.
Well, look, I'll be frank then, right? If a petitioner comes before us and it's their intent to seek those credits and they cannot provide me with a number, I will not vote for the project. I'm not saying the number has to be 100% accurate, but I want to know with some kind of ballpark estimate what kind of percentage they're seeking.
They could probably give you a ballpark, but ultimately they're not going to be able to tell you exactly until it's been approved by the board.
But I mean, 100% versus 10% to me is...
It's a big thing, but I just, for instance, next week, Mr. Janik, Northgate is coming before us for final plat, right? Is it final plat?
It's final PUD, the preliminary plat, but it
Oh,
is-
preliminary plat.
It is the final PUD.
So wouldn't they have to know because of where their buildings are going to be?
They definitely have a very close idea of what they're going to need. That's correct.
Okay, because, but in this case, you said particularly with them, they were probably, you know, or maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth. You may have said they could use 8 to 10, or they could ask for 8 to 10. But you said no to that. So they probably have an idea of, even before they started planning their building, how much they were going to ask.
Sure. We didn't say, we didn't say no. We can't
Right.
tell them no, but we suggested that, you know, there's no way, or very little chance you're going to get your complete, you know, compensatory storage. Now, just to throw something else out there, you probably saw that a variation was provided to a property near Lake Cook Road.
Right.
Recently. Now, that was a variation from 1.5 to 1 to 1, okay? That reduced their amount of compensatory storage that they would need if, in fact, they filled that entire property or filled any of it all. It would reduce the amount that they would need. This particular developer, as far as I know, is not asking for that variation. They could. And if they did, that would most likely reduce the amount of credits that they probably would ask for. But that's another way of doing it. There's no intent, really, I think, of the village providing variations all over the place for that. But if you did ask them next week approximately how much they were looking for, they would have definitely an approximate number.
I'm sure somebody on this board's going to ask.
Ask them. You can ask for it, you know, that's not a problem.
I'm sure somebody will. I'll start with that person next week. Commissioner,
Out of curiosity, because you have this bucket of credits, how far away can you use those credits? In other words, geographically?
It all has to do with something called hydraulic connection to various water bodies. In order to use the credits, you have to be able to show a hydraulic connection to the location of the stormwater management that you want to use.
How do they do that?
It's all, it's civil engineering. For instance, in this particular case, you can see that these properties all drain to Buffalo Creek. There's a hydraulic connection there. That creek flows from west to east, right through the Heritage Park. The credits are located in the park. There's a hydraulic connection between where that storage is and where these properties are. That is a connection. Now, some properties are farther away or closer to Buffalo Creek. Some properties, such as the Green, flow north and south, depending on what their the grades are on the property. So that's how you
So
determine.
there's really no, it's not figured in miles from the area, or, I guess I'm just trying to figure out how the geographics work.
It all has to do with the topography of the land, of the wheeling itself. Some properties are connected, some properties are not.
Okay, thank you.
yeah, go ahead.
Mark, as far as the hydraulic pumping, when they ask for credits, are they limited at all to how much they can pump into Heritage Park? Is that governed at all?
What do you mean by pumping?
Well, I mean, if they have like runoff or whatever, you're saying you're giving them 2 credits. I assume that allows them to put a certain amount of water into Heritage Park. Is that right?
In effect, yes.
So do we control, I mean, is that governed at all? Like, you can only pump so much water into Heritage Park? Is that governed at all? We're only going to allow you to put, I don't know, a couple thousand gallons in there, and if you put anything more, well, you can't do that? Or is it going to be limited as to how much a parcel can put into Heritage Park?
Yes, it's limited by the amount of credit that they're provided. For instance, on Northgate Crossing, they have to detain both their detention stormwater and their compensatory storage, and it's only released at a certain rate. Okay, it's released through a pipe. It's called a restrictor pipe.
Right.
And at a certain rate, basins fill up, and then it's released, not pumped, but it's released into Buffalo Creek.
Okay.
In one way or another, Heritage Park will hold a certain amount of water, the amount of credits that they're provided. In theory, philosophically, Heritage Park will hold some of their water. And it's held there because it's been created. They've dug a big hole over there. We own some of that hole.
Okay. So you basically have an inventory of credits, and you guys maintain that as new petitioners come into the village, you'll have like a little spreadsheet or something that says, okay, well.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
That's exactly right.
Okay. Thank you.
Does it impact, so for instance, the 10.7 acres, the old Kmart property,
Yes.
giving them a credit, does it impact any of the properties in between there and when we get over to Heritage Park? I'm not sure I'm saying it right, but
You are. Technically, no. I can tell you about Kmart. Kmart, the only part of Kmart that's in floodplain is the southeast corner. There's approximately, I would say, 1/4 of Kmart, just in that corner there, is in the floodplain. It's all parking lot right now.
Right.
Technically speaking, the creek is right behind Kmart, generally speaking.
Right.
If that was redeveloped, and you filled that corner of the parking lot, you wouldn't affect the properties near you, because even though you are displacing the theoretical storage that's in that parking lot when it floods, even though it doesn't really flood.
Yeah.
It's located someplace else. So you technically really aren't affecting the properties next to you. You know, for instance, if you do fill that, there has to be a pipe or a route from that floodplain area that you filled to the creek. You know, you're not filling and just like dumping it on the adjacent property. It has to have a conveyance to the creek somehow, and that's where it goes in, comes down to Heritage Park, and then it's located there. So you're not offloading the water to the adjacent property or the roadway.
But if you gave that property a credit, okay, so in example A, they don't get a credit, so they have to hold X amount of water on their property and slowly release it,
That's correct.
okay? If you give them a credit, they're holding less water, so that means, and it may be illogical, but that means more water is getting into Buffalo Creek sooner than if we hadn't given them a credit.
That's correct.
So that means Buffalo Creek could rise quicker and impact properties down the road,
But don't forget, hydrologically, when that creek rises to a certain point, now it just doesn't go on, you know, the park or adjacent properties. There's a hole along Wolf Road right now. It ranges in depth between 15 and 30 feet, 15 and I believe 26 feet deep. It was never there before. There's a big spillway. If you go down Wolf Road, you can see the concrete spillway.
Yeah.
The creek gets to a certain height, water dumps into that huge hole there. And when that fills up, then it goes west into other basins, okay? So today, well, before, the creek would rise, and it would just spread out. Higher Heritage Park, it would go up Wolf Road. Now it's going to go into a basin. So even though what you're thinking is, you know, to some extent, you can kind of see that, but what it's really doing is the creek's going to rise, but now it's got someplace to go in the ground. You guys go, if you walked along Wolf Road and seen the spillway, the big concrete spillway, that's exactly what's happening. It's just like the one up at Checker. There's a big spillway there too. Creek gets to a certain height, goes down that spillway and fills up that huge basin.
Interesting.
And is that operational now? I mean,
Generally speaking, yes, it is.
for this last storm?
It didn't overflow.
Oh, it wasn't
But if it
high
had, if this was last year at this time,
enough? Yeah.
it would have gone over that spillway and filled up that hole, and then it would have gone west and filled up the other ones.
Oh, cool.
Now, the ones to the west are not as deep. They're shallow, but
Then you get into the ball field?
that's correct.
Yeah.
The outfields goes back into Heritage Lake, which was made
Oh.
bigger as well. It was dredged partially, was made bigger. That has more storage.
Great. Does anybody else have any other questions, comments? Mr. Janik, thank you very much. Very
Thanks.
informative. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime.
Plan Commission discussion of workshop item priority list. Mr. Jennings, you have,
Yes. Give me 1 second. There we go. It woke up. In your packet, we attached the priority list. You did, didn't we? Let me see.
Yeah.
There it is. So on your iPads, it may be easier to do this than what I'm doing here. But I can try to get in there. Oh, you can read it. So the commission requested, we have the joint board meeting coming up. The commission requested that we just go back through this list and sort of do a status update. Is that more or less?
yeah.
If there's a preference of how to go through these, I can go through and update as we go along. Is that?
That's fine.
I think on the first one, the items, I think that we haven't had very many major site plan issues since we've sort of developed a new pattern of handling the end of the vote. So just to recap, what we do now at the end of an item that's got conditions of approval, if there are physical conditions that would affect the plans, what we do prior to voting is review them and decide if these items must be revised prior to the Plan Commission voting. In other words, table or continue the discussion, or as an alternative, are the items that can be done prior to the board review, or if it's a minor permit issue. So that's the new pattern. It's not something that we've, although it's been quite some time now since that's the decision that was made, we haven't had very many opportunities to employ that. But that's the gist of this, is have a very explicit discussion about what might be changed and what it means before there's a vote. Any questions on that one?
I guess, that was our top priority item, was it not?
Yeah.
I think, in our voting scenario. I would like to say that that one seems to have been resolved. We have a set of policies, practices that seem to be working better. So could we mark that one as complete?
Yep, I would agree.
I think I can, sorry.
You can do it later.
Yeah, you can do it later. You can just write it down now, you don't have to.
Okay, so that's the first one.
Yep.
We will note that is complete. The second item, we had a couple of items related to landscaping. They're grouped together. The duty to maintain landscaping, what we've actually done is add this to the building permit and the code as well. The landscaping brochure is, in the last year, was added to the RFP for those who didn't hear the update, which I believe was last week when we had 3 out. The landscaping code and brochure RFP received 0 responses. What we have done in the time since that happened is reached out to the Northwest Municipal Conference for some assistance to try to determine if we can send it out to a broader audience, if there's some additional places to post it, as well as if there are some modifications to the RFP itself that might help us attract some proposals.
Okay. Any question on those 3?
No, at least the first 2 we've acted on them, so.
Right.
Probably could delete those.
Right.
Or mark them as complete. There's some numbers along the left-hand side, so you could just say we've completed 12, 13, and 15.
Yeah, those were just
Those are the
some.
number of votes, yeah.
Those are number of votes.
Okay, sorry.
The next item down, involvement in Dundee and Wolf Road streetlight fixture selection. The answer on this, just generally speaking, was if the Plan Commission has an item of this nature, a memo from the chair of the commission to the manager and village president can be sent. This specific item it has some overlap with one of the items that I believe we're planning to discuss at the joint meeting. The streetlights are part of an agreement with Buffalo Grove related to the Lake Cook Road project and consistency of lighting on several corridors. So I believe that is where that outcome is a result of the overlap with those other items in this particular case. But that's the general idea of requests of that nature would be to go through the chair of the commission providing a written request to the manager and president.
Did you do that, Jim?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, thank
I
you.
did. I think you all got a letter on that. I think you sent that out, right? Andrew?
Yes.
Yes, you did.
They already selected the fixtures for Wolf Road though, didn't they? I mean, I thought I heard that at a board meeting, that was done.
I think the idea of it was, there's an agreement, the lighting on the Lake Cook Road widening project was subject to an agreement with Buffalo Grove for consistency, and the idea was that the corridors near it would have a similar light. So I believe that's the decision that's being made, is to generally match that fixture.
So what you're saying is Dundee and Wolf is going to match what's on Lake Cook Road?
I believe that is what,
Okay.
the new lights for Lake Cook.
And
Right,
and
that
who
would
made
be a
that agreement?
The village with Buffalo Grove. Right.
That could be,
But you said that this is going to be discussed at the joint workshop, which is
yes,
May 27th?
that's correct.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, May 27th.
Day after Memorial Day. Okay. So we can bring that up there. We can bring it up. I'm okay. We should, there's no holds barred, anything. Okay. Industrial business use.
Yeah, one second, I'm noting. Industrial business use. We have a potential zoning code workshop. The zoning code amendments are actually on the drafted memo to try to solicit some feedback from the commission and board in the joint meeting. But the idea of having this added to our next round of zoning code amendments certainly could be
Yes.
pursued.
I'd like to see that. And since it's one of our higher priority items, we should do that.
Especially, there seems to be a lot of activity in that area as well recently.
Yep.
Yeah, especially with different uses and stuff.
Okay. All right, we have our next items, I think, in here, where this word action is. So the Southeast TIF Comprehensive Plan update, of course, was approved. The creation of the overlay zone was a topic of discussion at the last joint meeting. Background information that was provided. We have somewhat of a follow-up item on the draft materials for this time as well. There's the general response at the time was not to pursue a new overlay zone based on the discussion that we had. There was some discussion of continuing to protect Restaurant Row, et cetera. Whether or not a overlay district was needed to do that, there was no specific direction given. Planning Commission can certainly request that again. And if there's a consensus to do something with it on our Title 19 update, we can look at that as well.
Comments on that one?
Well, I think for both the airport overlay and the Milwaukee Avenue overlay concept, I'd like to get a feeling of the village board on whether they think that has a chance of being pursued, or just say, no, forget about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I would
That's a
agree.
good point.
You know, so I'd like to have that as a item of,
Item for discussion.
Yeah.
At our joint meeting.
is that okay? Acceptable?
Yeah.
It was on the agenda the last time. There was probably 2 pages of background information provided. And, if the question is still not clear,
Right.
we could certainly ask.
Yeah.
I went back and checked my notes.
From the last joint meeting we had?
Yes, so I went back and checked my notes, and the section of the minutes of that meeting devoted to that particular topic is actually fairly short. We spent most of our time talking about other items.
Well, if I remember correctly, though, the whole plan wasn't developed, and then the consultant came in with
Right.
his thing afterwards, and we kind of asked him if he thought there might be a reason to do it, and he said, maybe it might be worth considering, but
I think we can ask it again, considering the changes that have occurred. Why not?
As I remember, the two board members that did speak on the Milwaukee Avenue questioned the restrictions.
I do,
And,
yes.
and in my mind, the whole idea of the overlay district is to restrict it. You don't want
a used
a
car
tire
lot.
company coming in where Don Roth's is, for an example. And without any documentation to say otherwise, that could very well be.
And I think with the Southeast District a little bit more mature, we can bring it up again.
All right, so I'll note that as an ask again.
Yep.
The next item down is non-conforming properties. Generally speaking, there's the note that we have here, I don't know if there's an additional discussion that needs to occur out of this, or if this has been addressed in some fashion.
This goes for any property, correct? I mean, you know, I assume any parcel in the village, this is kind of like a plan on how to handle something like that?
Yeah, my thoughts are there's all kinds of nonconformity. There are some major nonconformities. There are side yard, front yard, setback nonconformities. There may be height nonconformities. There may be lack of sidewalk nonconformity. Are all nonconformities treated equally? Or do we have different actions based upon different types of nonconformity? And I don't think we have any set standards. It just seems to some days go this way and some days go another way. You know.
So, in a nutshell, what are the triggers for addressing each type of nonconformity?
Yeah, basically, or severity of nonconformity, or some, more structured method for evaluating the impact of a nonconformity. And when do you do something about it? Is if somebody comes in for a sign change, can you do?
Can you ask them for sidewalks?
No. Can you tell him that he has to, get a variation for his side yard setback or something like that? You know what I mean? When do certain things get triggered?
For instance, are there towns, do we have examples of other towns, how they handle non-conforming? Can you get that?
A lot of, it depends. Some towns distinguish between non-compliance and non-conformance. The sense of Commissioner Styland's question, though, some towns would look at non-compliance as a technical bulk regulation. The setback is the non-complying setback, and then things that are uses of a property are considered non-conforming. The two in our code are kind of intermingled. There's no distinction between a building bulk non-conformity and a use non-conformity. So the main difference between Wheeling and those towns then is just the those towns may have a very specific set of regulations for dealing with a non-complying building bulk issue versus their set of regulations for non-conforming uses. A lot of towns that are very similar in what the triggers are, they tend to be periods of vacancy or inactivity are what trigger nonconformity. Expansion of a nonconforming situation is typically not allowed in any town. So you may find some minor changes from one place to the next, but the general gist of it, a lot of the root of municipal zoning is very similar in terms of what happens with nonconforming. The question, though, I think, the additional question is, if you have some sort of nonconforming situation that exists on a site, and what is being asked is some sort of development on that site, is there an additional trigger beyond vacancy that would require somebody to address a non-conforming situation? So we can certainly look at that. You know, some towns have what's called amortization of a non-conforming situation. So you have only so long after a certain point to be non-conforming with respect to land use before you have to convert to a conforming.
We don't do that anymore.
We do not have that.
Or so that would be like an unincorporated area, we incorporate it.
Right, when you have a situation like that, you have a decision at the time of incorporation whether or not to amortize the non-conforming uses or allow them to basically go under the same non-conforming status of your other land uses.
And the question is, when do you start making it conforming?
Okay.
So maybe we can discuss that at a workshop.
Yeah, I think what the staff can do is try to figure out how to frame that workshop, require a little bit of background information,
Yep.
some research.
Good.
As it moves up the priority list.
I'm not certain it's moving up the priority list, it's that we've gotten rid of
Right.
high priority things, so I guess it is moving up. We don't have any 17s or 15s anymore, so.
The parking code adjustment, the board approved what the planning commission recommended with respect to most of these. The only item I think that's the commission, when this came in front of you as a workshop item, there was a point at which the commission recommended pursuing basically modifying our code and not rewriting it. And I think that's the only real question is the modification, is it working as expected, or is there a point at which the commission would recommend either further modification or a real true rewrite? So I guess that's how I would view this one, is mostly done, but is there a need to keep it on our list of periodic zoning code updates?
Personally, I think, you've adjusted the percentages, and now we're asking for future employee headcounts to mitigate some of the previous problems. I'd like to consider this one closed
Yeah.
as well, unless something unusual
Yep.
pops up in the future. I
would
think
think it's
you've done a good job on
Yep.
tuning and tweaking it.
Next one down, policy or suggest ordinance on cross-access. Generally speaking, it is in Title 17. I don't know if we discussed this one much, but the language of the code may be sufficient as it is. The limitation here, though, is if If the expectation is that you can go to a property owner who's not asking for anything and require the cross-access, there may be some legal line of that, but I'm not sure if there's
What was this one brought up for? There must have been something
curb
specific.
cut reduction, I think was the general idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we had a specific,
Yeah,
I
was
think
it
there
the,
were, like Pearl Vision, and then the property to the south, or to the west of it,
it wasn't the
North-
car wash at the corner that wanted to come in?
no, I don't think, well, that could
That
have
could
been
be
it too.
one.
I mean, that'd be another great example of where a cross-access requirement to
Yeah.
a conveniently located piece of property would be an excellent thing to do. But I was thinking more Gaslight Shopping Center and Pearl Vision and Ace Hardware and that whole, connecting it up to the gas station and just having a whole couple entrances versus the
Right.
magnitude of curb cuts
Yeah,
that we have.
So the mechanisms for dealing with this are at the time of subdivision or by acquiring the right. So for example, you take an existing development where the village desires to eliminate curb cuts and consolidate access. Essentially, the village, in order to accomplish that, would need to broker a deal. If it's the two property owners, the village, seeing a public benefit, would try to have the property owners either sell the village the right to create a public access that they both share. So it is a little bit of a complicated.
Let me give you an example that may be current. I mean, for the Northgate Crossing area, I wanted to have an access path in the back of the parking lot along the tracks, just an access agreement to the property to the south, such that if we could ever get the property south to agree to their half of the access agreement, we'd already have the two ready to go. And so creating a policy at our level would allow us to ask for access rights or agreement, not that it has to be developed now, but that it could be developed at some point in time in the future. I don't know who would pay for doing it, if the village might pony up some TIF money to, make it, to do the interconnection in the future or
Yeah, in
whatever.
that case, you're talking about a bridge and everything else.
Yeah, whatever,
But the complication, using that example, the complication is if they say no. And they did. They have no desire to provide that access because of the unknown of what would develop. So they're not willing to provide it. It has to be acquired. And if they are not willing to sell it, you're talking about a condemnation. And to condemn, you really have to provide not just the compensation, but you have to provide the compelling public interest.
I hear you, Andrew, and I agree wholeheartedly, but if it was the policy of the Plan Commission, if it was the policy of the village board, if it was the policy of the village in its entirety to say, we want to provide these cross-access paths, then when a petitioner comes in and you as a village planner say, this is something the village really wants, he can still say no, but then we can say no and the village board can say no as well. And the policy just, if it's something that the village wants to do, gives it a little bit more weight and makes it a little bit more
Yeah, I think
convenient to do.
I think the staff research on this one would be to just double check with the attorneys. I think my understanding of this one is you can't have a general policy, you have to have a specific policy. So, for example, the bicycle and pedestrian plan, if the village were to identify specific locations of cross-access, the ultimate action, if the owner of the land did not want to allow the village to acquire that easement right, and it did have to go through some sort of condemnation action, the village's case for condemnation would be based on the specific plan. And I don't know if you can do that on a general plan. And that's what I would probably talk to our attorneys about, is to see how, can you have a general policy of cross-access, or does it have to be specific to connecting one place to another?
Yeah, but I'll just go back and say, I think that's something, because I think I brought this item up. It'd just be an item that I would like the PC to discuss to see if they have any shared interest in my thoughts. If not, then, trash the item. But you know what I mean? So it's just, I don't think you need to go and do a lot of work. I think we need to say, is this something that the commission would like to pursue?
Is this
So,
keep it or?
yeah.
Everything would have to be a case-by-case basis, because if it's not going to benefit two landowners.
Commissioner Schaaf, what do you comment about this?
It's very difficult, unless it's just like Don said, it's got to almost be on a case-by-case basis. And specifically talking about Northgate, he's already said that he doesn't want any kind of access.
Now, if down the road something on that corner develops that his tenants can use, he might be willing to do that, but I can see why he wouldn't want to do it now, just in case a 24-hour Harley shop opens up there or something.
I don't know. Commissioner Powers?
I guess I would just, probably would like to see the cross-access agreement codes, like we could just do a quick review in other business or something, just so I could see what it's about. That would be helpful.
Commissioner Sutton, Height, Commissioner Johnson?
What's the actual question here?
Well, is it something that this cross-access, it's one of our priorities, is it something that we should leave on here and pursue and have staff do more digging, or is it something that we should just take off here and review these on a case-by-case basis? Is there something that we could put an ordinance against? You feel strongly about it, that we should leave it on here as a priority item?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure I'm one of the number ones on there.
Right. Commissioner Zangara?
I would agree, just in the fact of, like you said, case by case. I think you just got to treat them in that respect.
Commissioner Dorban?
I think it's on a case-by-case.
Yeah. And I feel the same way. But I think we somehow need to keep that in front of us as we're going through here, and I don't know how we could wrap some ordinances around it.
Well, I'll give you another example right there, at least on the thing that Mark Janik provided us tonight. Appears to be a lot of property on the north side of Dundee Road here that's ripe for development in the future. Are we going to load it up with a bunch of curb cuts on each of those properties? Are we going to try and connect the properties as much as possible to try and eliminate the curb cuts?
Well,
Shouldn't we decide that now before?
Are you thinking of joining them together as in having a second road, like a frontage road type of access? Or are you saying?
All I'm saying is we should try to limit curb cuts to provide convenient flows of traffic and access.
So two businesses together, but using one entrance, is that what you're saying?
Well, it
Or
could
maybe
be.
two, or maybe
Yeah,
three
three.
businesses using two.
I mean, look at the Jewish synagogue here, and then the proposal, the other PUD next to it, the senior housing development. I mean,
Yeah, but
do
doesn't-
something
doesn't
like
it
that.
go
I mean,
back-
they're gonna share across property and stuff like that. I mean, that may be a good place for something like that.
But it's something
Well, and
that's
that's on
case
their
by
plan.
case. But it's on their plan, and it's something we can discuss as they come in. And I,
But do you discuss it after they've done all their plans and stuff?
well, I would leave that up to staff, though, to.
Exactly, and that's why I say, some kind of policy, PC policy might give Andrew a little bit more weight than having to redo the plans after
Well,
the fact.
what about having some type of statement that said, a cross-access shall be considered?
Okay, so.
I mean,
think
can
that's
we say
why-
something like that rather than make it a specific policy? Just throw it out there that it could be? I mean,
If you look at the screen right now, there's a note to provide the sections from the code that already address this. So I think a good first step would be doing that.
Okay.
your
So you
first
may-
step
you may
is
be
what?
sa-
I agree with that.
This
You may be
highlighted area
satisfied.
is to provide that to us, and we can workshop it. So
So
I would be in
basically
agreement
do-
with that.
do
And
what
as
we
long as
said
it's not, right, as long as it's not any type of formal ordinance, a policy, I would be okay with a policy. So let's leave it on there, and let's discuss this, and at our next available workshop, let's talk about that. Didn't we have another, well, we were going to talk about the, we were going to talk about the overlay districts at the joint workshop. Did we have something else above this that we were going to do
I've
a
been
workshop?
noting, yeah, I've been noting them kind of as we go, which ones have an open item still.
Okay.
I can give you an update
Okay,
at the
so
end of the
let's,
list.
yeah, okay.
Number 9 was actually discussed at a workshop, and there was a general consensus that it was done.
Number
Sorry,
9.
it's 9 on my sheet of paper.
sign code
Sign
one?
code to advance Y, advance auto.
Oh, okay.
That one is, we did have a discussion on this.
Right.
And the consensus was that the set of circumstances that led to it, its location, the total size, proximity to the street, didn't require additional code change.
Right.
Just a future
Yep.
consideration of other people's signs. The next item, I think, is just an ongoing collective goal. I don't think that it necessarily needs.
All right.
Does it need to be on the list of projects?
No. Oh, I'm sorry. The democracy. Does this need to be on the list? You know,
No,
No.
something to keep in mind. That's-
yeah, okay, no, take it off.
Something for the chair's cheat sheet, I think.
Yeah, right, it's on my cheat sheet somewhere.
Review of land use applications. I don't remember which commissioner suggested this. Is there a type of questionnaire that is made available to a petitioner? We tend to meet with petitioners of complex land use items one-on-one. The questionnaire, the answer to that is no, we don't have a questionnaire. The application is broken up into multiple pieces. A petitioner for any given item can read the description of the application process, which is also available on our website.
But why did we have action workshop?
You know what, I seem to recall putting our applications
Oh, yes, you
in
did,
front of everybody.
you did. You did, yep,
Go back and check the minutes of that one.
you did. I thought,
That was your 18-step.
right, yeah,
I would have to go back and check the minutes on this one. I think it's been a good,
That may be complete.
close to a year.
yeah, I think this one was complete. If you could,
We must have done it May 16th of last year.
I was wondering what those dates were for. Okay, great. Okay. So that one just could check to see if it's complete. And then
I'm
the
fairly
last,
certain we had the workshop. I do not recall an
yeah,
outcome
we
from
did.
it. Does anybody recall any outcome?
No, I think you.
Well, I think we
May
went through
16th,
the
that sounds
different
good.
ton of PDFs that you had.
Next one down, zoning code amendments. There are some minor changes to the PUD that are on our list of zoning code amendments. That list is in the draft memo for the joint meeting.
Good.
Was this one specifically that PUD things are determined at concept approval time?
Yes, basically, yes, it was. It was that, it was trying to get some feedback on the masonry requirement in general, and then we had a couple of other minor changes. There was a comment made tonight about the final plat, and I think that what we're trying to do is move the plat up so the preliminary plat goes with preliminary PUD.
Right.
There was a discussion several years ago that adding the plat to all of it was just one extra thing that complicated the petition, but I think in practice, the plat is the least complicated item that they have to put together. So the preliminary plat can certainly go with preliminary PUD, and the final plat can come in with final PUD. These other items we had already listed as done or active. Are there any questions?
Is there anything that somebody would like to add?
I would like to throw something out. I don't know, Andrew. We used to have sidewalks on the list, and then you came up with the sidewalk plan. You managed to get some money into the budget for us for a sidewalk plan, so I think you accomplished that task very nicely. One of the things that I would like to see if we could do in the future is you had prioritized certain sidewalk areas versus proximity and all that kinds of stuff. And I think you did an excellent job. But there's another criteria maybe that we should consider, and that is sidewalks that are in a TIF eligible area. There's money in the TIF budget to improve infrastructure. Sidewalks are indeed infrastructure. We keep giving TIF money away back to the taxing bodies. Why don't we take some of that money that's supposed to be devoted to improving the infrastructure and start building some sidewalks in our TIF areas that will improve the village?
We did, when we were trying to set the annual budget, what we were looking at in the end was a 7-year plan for addressing high priority. So the high priority sidewalks were the ones that we are looking at based on the criteria that we all had. So the 7-year plan is for the high priority sidewalk segments to be installed.
Right.
That analysis does include whether a portion of the sidewalk segment is in a TIF district. Ultimately, right now, I think I can check with the capital projects engineers and see if we have an update. I know that we've had meetings with the engineers who are designing the sidewalks that are the first 7 years worth of sidewalks, and I think there is some. We may be able to put together some sort of update as to what that is. But the idea of the TIF being part of that is certainly factored in. I don't know exactly to what extent, but we also found, for example, some additional money from another project that was able to be applied to it. So I can see if I can talk to the capital projects folks and get an update.
And likewise for, the Dundee Road street lighting, and I don't know if Wolf Road is in a TIF. I think part of Wolf Road is in a TIF,
Can you add that to this list here?
And-
And I think we're to a point where I don't necessarily know that I need to go to everybody and ask them for a priority on this. I think we're in a manageable number of priorities that we can probably work with.
As time,
Yeah, exactly. I think right now.
when it's convenient.
Yeah, I don't think, unless something really strikes out that we want to get up there, I don't think we need to prioritize.
But
Priority.
for the streetlights, I heard that some of the funding for the streetlight program might have dried up in Illinois or whatever. So, hey, we've got money in our TIF
Right.
budget
No,
for this stuff.
yeah.
Maybe we ought to be improving our village.
Well, I agree, and I think if we put it on our priority list, that we know it's there. But what I was saying was we didn't have to prioritize anything that we add now from a,
But again, I mean, that was a Terry Stalin idea.
No, but I think
I'd like the commission to,
but and to a certain extent, I disagree with that. I think if you as a commission member have something that is, you think is important, then we should add it.
but I'm a team guy, so.
Well, but I know you are, but I think we added that, we had that priority because we had this big list, and we wanted to work on those things that we all thought is a high priority. Now, I think when we add something, I think we know that it's a priority and that we should look at it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can I make an observation?
sure.
In here, we have listed I'll give you for instance, like Gaslight Plaza. 10 years from now, is anybody going to know what Gaslight Plaza is? We probably should say where it is, rather than just giving it Gaslight Plaza.
I'll forget specifics. Yeah,
Yeah.
I found that interesting that you say that, Pam, because in one of them, I'm using my finger there and I can't do that. I can't do that. We talked about, when it was across easement, we talked about Milwaukee and Dundee. And I think if we would have put some type of what it would have probably also generated right there. For all businesses on Milwaukee and Dundee. What does that mean? But that's a good point. So, if we talk specifics, let's give addresses on this. That's a good point. Any other questions or comments or things that you'd like to see added? And we have a number of things that we can workshop. And when do you think our next opportunity for a workshop is? Because next week we've got now 3 items, right? We've got the car wash, the final plat.
Certainly not going to be next week.
No, I know that. Right.
I would say kind of regroup after the joint meeting.
Okay.
See what comes out of that.
Sure.
And then pick, maybe there's a consensus for what should be the next topic. But I think the zoning code probably will naturally fall after that
Okay,
as the next item.
cool. All right. Anything else on our priority list? Andrew, do you have any other business?
I have no other business.
Okay. Commissioner Dorban,
Nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Zangara,
I have nothing, thank you.
Commissioner Johnson.
I would just like to congratulate Deputy Chief John Tevens on his upcoming retirement and thank him for his many years of service to the Village of Wheeling. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Steinle,
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Commissioner Powers?
One thing real quick, was pretty amazing last week in my subdivision. Over one day, the village came and took out probably over 70 or 80 emerald ash trees. They just knocked them out one day, and it was pretty amazing. It's like a ghost town there now, but the people they had contract to do the work did a great job. That's it.
And to that point, they sent out an email with an update on the Emerald Ash Borer. So, Commissioner Jeff?
I have just one thing. Who's responsible for upkeep of properties that have been foreclosed? And how's the best way to, 459 code, is that give the address and say, hey, this place is pretty well overgrown.
Yes.
Whoever's responsible, and I assume it's the company that foreclosed.
It's typically the bank, yes.
Yeah, okay. But that's probably the best way to handle that is just a 459 code call?
Yes, if you have the address available, I would call.
Okay. That was all I had.
Two things. One, a couple of us attended the sort of open house for Spears, and I think general consensus is we did a nice job in working with them. So Commissioner Steinle pointed out that the bathroom moved in that place.
While you were in it?
Yeah, while we were in it.
I missed that.
Well,
It's a fancy bathroom.
Commissioner Steinle and I were talking there, and he pointed out, and he said that I made a comment about it. When you walked in the door, if you walked in and I think Commissioner Zangara suggested something to shield it so you wouldn't get the cold air, and then I said, well, and then when you walk in, the bathroom's going to be right there, and I remember them saying, well, we're going to put up a wall, a half wall, and magically now there's a little private dining room, and the bathroom is towards the little stage that they have set up. But it's fine, I mean, it looks great.
Yeah, generally speaking, that type of change that doesn't have a impact on the use of the space, we determine that to be a construction change during the permit review if they make a minor shift like that.
Yeah, it was just interesting that Commissioner Steinle remembered that. And
He didn't walk into the wall or anything.
No.
No, I congratulated Jim on bringing it the subject up because somebody actually followed through on it.
Yeah,
He's wearing a cast.
yeah, right, so.
Yeah, he was wearing that,
Right.
run into it with your arm.
Right. And then, lastly, I would like to thank the members that were here last week. I know a couple of folks couldn't make it, and I know Commissioner Powers was under the weather, and he muddled through the meeting, and I thank you, so we didn't have to have the petitioner come back again. So thank you for that. Thank you all. And with summer coming up, let's make sure that Commissioner Jennings, you got a promotion. Mr. Jennings and Ms. Jones know when we're going to be on vacation, so if we're planning something and they've got something big that we need to have a quorum, let's make sure we have it, so, thank you. That's all I had. So do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.